welcome you here to the regular meeting of West Valley City Council. We call our meeting to order. We note that we have a quorum present. 5 members of the council are here. Council member Steve Bueller will be excused tonight, and Council member Steve Vincent will be joining us shortly. With that, we'll begin with our opening ceremony. Council member Lars Nordfeld.
Thank you, Mayor. I've asked a quartet from the Hunter High School Madrigals to come to our meeting tonight to perform the national anthem. The flag is behind us, but they're going to perform here. It's appropriate to face the music, if you will, as they sing. So if they'll come forward and we'll all stand while they sing the national anthem. Oh, their names as they arrive are Maddie Hall, Anna Curtis, Daniel Nordfeld, and Selasi Odell.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you very much. Nice to have that on a council evening. With that, we recognize Senator Main here with us. We'll be hearing from her shortly. Before we do that, we'd like to recognize a scout troop. And I think you've been prepped. If you'll come up here to the microphone and welcome.
So we're Troop 917 from Kennedy Junior High, and today we're working on our community citizenship in the community, Mayor Veg.
Very good. Thank you. Welcome. We have approval of our minutes from October 4th. A motion from the council.
Move to approve the minutes of October 4th.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? They looked okay when I read through them, so all in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Passes unanimously. Okay, now we have our public comment period. And so with that, I think there's just one person here, Senator Main. Why don't you come forward and we'll hear from you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. I think you have the letter in front of you. I had copies for that, thank you. And I hope you look at the names, especially those that live around me. These are longtime citizens. Some have been there 40 years. I live in an area where we stay in West Valley, and we have grandchildren there, and we are solid West Valley citizens that have chosen to stay here. I come before you because this problem is acute in our neighborhood and it needs to be addressed. The last 8 years, we've had a home that sits by us on the corner. this home he rents in the basement, and he rents, who knows, daily, hourly, monthly, but we've had many, many hundreds of people come through this home. So the scenario changes with who's there. We've had chop shops, we've had people milling metal in the backyard, we've had drug deals. One time we had, it must have been the FBI, we had dark cars there. They closed the home down for 3 days. You have been there several times. Code enforcement has been there. And it's not appropriate for where we are. I live one house away in the circle. And it kind of came to pass to me, and a light came in my head. When there's an issue or code enforcement comes, then they clean it up. Well, then we get new people and he's naughty again. So it's good, it's naughty, it's whoever he rents to. I can tell you we have mixed company, so I won't speak to that. But things that are very inappropriate should not be done in the circle, should not be done anywhere in private and public. And it kind of, as I said, sparked a flame in me when I went to a funeral, and many of my neighbors were there. One of the neighbors that had passed away, and they spoke to me. They live up and down the street, I live in the circle, about the things that have gone on. So collectively, I thought it was a circle problem. It's not. And they shared some really disgusting and unpleasant scenarios that they have had. So that's when the journey started. They spoke about calling code enforcement, and those things have happened. So I spoke to Nicole, and thank you very much for the open door for that. And then that's when this process started, because they have come before, because he's been naughty before. And I saw a lot of activity, I saw things being cleaned up. I can't, if I would tell you how bad this is, I don't think you'd even believe me. He puts things in big trailers. We have big cars that you can't see in. People are living in them. They live in the back. We have mattresses all over. They come at night, they sleep in the mattresses. We won't tolerate it anymore. So, code enforcement, I've talked to them. They've been there. I appreciate that. And West Valley Police has been there. And there's been citations and things are better. Before I came here today, I spoke to the neighbor in back. And he told me 2 days ago they had just moved from the front to the back. He called code enforcement, and they have come out and made him remove this. There's not a lot of working going on there. There's a lot of people home during the day. And we have 2 people, 5 people. I can speak to you about, we had about 4 or 5 months at that 10 cars. You can imagine a circle where 10 cars come at night, and they come about 11:30 at night, and they're gone at 4 or 5 in the morning. That happened for like 4 months, and then whatever happens, it moves again. We have parole officers. It just depends on the scenario of who's there. So we have signed this to just inform you how serious we are about this. And we have been guided that we are to make sure that we call in regularly. So that can happen, and I know really a lot about picketing. So if that needs to happen, I mean, we're so serious about this. It can't be tolerated. Next door, and this is why it poked me in the eye probably to be more aggressive with this. I had my neighbor, he was single and he lived next door to me, and he just took care of his yard, just a nice guy. He moved and a new young family moved in, 2 little kids. And they took all their money to buy this house. And they came out to me and said, oh, I don't know about this house, what's going on? And it had every dime they had to move to West Valley to have a new, vibrant family there. And I thought, I'm not going to let this happen. This is what we want to encourage. More new people come in, want to live here, just like we do. And I'll bet you there's 15 families on my street that have moved there when I moved, and those that not have been there a long time too. So I lay this upon your heart. We know what we need to do, and we will do this. He has, I understand he has an LLC business license, but he doesn't have the coordinating licensing to make this happen. I understand, like the neighbor across from me, they have rented to missionaries, and I understand that. So that process can be done in my city that I'm aware of. So if he's going to do that, he's going to take care of business. And so we're sharing this concern. I hope you look at the names of these people, because you know them, I'm sure, or of the longevity in our community. I'm guided by you about code enforcement, but what I think needs to be done, and my neighbor shared this with me, that all those things you have, citations have been given to him, and he has so many days to do this. I know you have the criminal arm to prosecute him. I know you have the laws in place that you can take him through the pathway of the judicial pathway. So I encourage you to do that, because the only way that you're going to stop him is get him, because he's a smart guy and he's manipulated us and the system for a long time. So I appreciate very much you letting me speak to you. You know that I am their senator, and I am senator to many of you too. And it's my job, they're my constituents, and so I've come to you that we can make this a better place that people want to live. So I appreciate your time, and I hope that you will have heart for our situation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else here to speak? Public comment period. Seeing no one else, we'll move on. Our city manager, Mr. Pyle, any comments?
Yeah, Mayor, I think I'll take a minute just to comment, maybe also add to Senator Maine's concern and some of the things that we're dealing with. First off, I appreciate her bringing that matter to our attention, and as she noted, it's not the first time. We've got a long history out there at the particular address that she's referring to, and I also appreciated the fact that the Senator has mentioned that we've had code enforcement out there multiple times, we've had police out there multiple times, and by multiple, I'm understating the fact, I'm sure. So, you know, that's the not humorous side of the situation we're dealing with. But I also, you know, just from a matter of policy, this is something we talk about in varying degrees a lot as council, and I thought I'd bring something else up in terms of what we can do, what we are doing, what might be possible solutions to help with this, which, you know, I'm not saying they are, but they're just ideas, and also things that I know that exist that are preventing us and are actual roadblocks in allowing us to undertake these sorts of situations in a stronger way, which I'm not even saying necessarily we want to make a general policy of. I certainly agree with Senator Maine that in this particular case, this home is a problem. But just as an example, I don't know how many of you as council members are aware of, or even if Karen Maine is aware of this, but right now today, you can't get anybody in our Salt Lake County jail who is up on a warrant for anything less than a felony. Class A misdemeanor and below will not go to jail. I just had a incident 2 hours ago where one of our own officers, not the police officer, an animal control officer, was assaulted here in the city. And we actually had to ask for special permission to get this person in jail under our current judicial system as we are living under it today. And thankfully, they did take this person to jail. I don't know how long they'll stay in there, but that's the kind of thing that we're dealing with on a daily basis, just in jail space. When you add to that some of the other things that we're looking at the local level, dealing with as they are passed at the state level or at the county judicial prosecutorial level, it's very hard to do more than we're doing right now. We certainly are more than willing to continue to go out from a code enforcement standpoint. I actually just, not even knowing that the senator would be here this evening, 2 days ago, had conversation about a very specific problem at that property concerning abandoned vehicles. And the only reason I was even involved in the conversation is because I was working with our community relations officers on the PD side and our code enforcement officers on the code side, and they were trying to resolve that issue. But they, as the senator mentioned, are there constantly, probably way more than they have time to be dealing with on one single property. But we obviously have a high priority of trying to maintain these neighborhoods to the highest level we can. But we can only do so much at the local level. In addition to the lack of jail space or even reservation of jail space, it's also happening at the county level. We also are dealing with, and I don't know where Senator Maine sat with, and I know she's very tough on crime and doesn't put up with a lot of things, as we know from Senator Maine's position. But we just went through in the legislature in the last 2 years this whole decriminalization situation of a lot of what are termed lower level crimes, and what's ended up happening with that is they move these to a lower level misdemeanor, and I'm talking about things like low level possession of amounts of drugs, that sort of thing, or sort of associated crimes along that line. We can't get them in jail. We won't get any sort of real arrest warrant and that sort of activity. The best we can actually do at the local level is cite these people, which Senator Maine alluded to that too, rightfully so. And we'll cite these people, and then we're relying on their recognizance to come in and take care of their fines or anything further that might happen on outstanding warrants. I've got another situation right now today. I'm sorry, I'm kind of dragging this out, but it's actually a good statement that people from the public need to and increasingly will be aware of in the upcoming months and next few years coming up. We've got a person that I'm aware of out there with no permanent residence right now that's got $40,000 in warrants on an aggravated assault charge, and we can't get a prosecutorial decision to either allow us to prosecute that case and get him or get him in jail for any kind of period of time. And when you end up in a situation where you are decriminalizing a lot of these lower level offenses, and I get, that we've got shortages of jail space and shortages of resources and shortages of all those sorts of things, prosecutorial ability to handle caseloads, all that sort of thing. We deal with that at our level every day. But the more you squeeze those ends, the less room there is in the middle for us to accomplish what we are accomplishing with the resources we've got. It's amazing that we're doing what we are doing, frankly. So, again, I'll probably just end my commentary there, but I appreciate the fact that the good senator has come and brought that commentary to us this evening, because it is something that's going to become a greater and a greater issue as time goes on. That's it, Mayor.
Thank you. To the council. Yes.
My family is watching this at home, and they made 2 comments. My son said he's well aware and will keep another eye on that address.
It's famous, isn't it?
It is, and he's well aware of it. And the other one is, we need to use our mics because apparently our sound isn't picking up unless we're right on top of the microphone.
You must be listening on Comcast. I would like to add a few comments in connection with that. Currently before the state legislature are some issues dealing with this type of problem. We have had over many, many decades a concept arise that you have a subdivision of single-family homes. That is changing. And many people want to turn homes into businesses, and because it's related to renting out rooms, they believe that they should have the right to run that business in the middle of a subdivision. And it is going to change our subdivisions, and we have an example right here. A person who literally is in business, renting out rooms similar to a hotel. And because of the current status of our laws, there's nothing we can do about that. And we should have a way to say, look, our zoning should allow us to say you can't operate businesses in homes unless they are minimal impact as far as traffic, as far as how it impacts their neighbors and the like. And cities should have the option to protect those existing neighborhoods. I understand there's a big discussion, the right of the homeowner to rent versus the right of neighbors to live in a subdivision. That's why people move there. If they wanted to live in a hotel, there are lots of apartments downtown where you live a whole bunch of people close together and people are moving in and out all the time. But even in most rental units, they require leases of typically 6 months, often a year, so that you don't have this high turnover. There are a few motels, of course, obviously, that rent on a daily basis, a lot of them, some on hourly basis, and they deal with things that we don't want in our communities. So Senator Maine, you have a great challenge facing you at the legislature. You know, Airbnb is driving some things, and they're not terrible things, but they change our subdivisions in a significant way. And once you cross that line, where does it go? So we'd ask you to be very aware of it, look after the interests of our neighborhood, and now that you have some personal experience on these short-term rental homes, you can speak with more authority and address what is happening in reality in our neighborhoods. Because if it's going to happen, then you just turn them all loose and anything goes. And that makes it very difficult to raise families in that environment, especially if we believe that we want to protect our children. Because there's a lot of things, there's a reason why we don't set up our homes typically in the middle of industrial areas or in the middle of commercial areas. You normally try and stay in a subdivision so that you have that surrounding influence to protect families. Now, I kind of got on a little speech there, and that's okay, but wanted our good senator to know and to think about that, and know you'll look after our interests, and go get them. Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Councilman Vincent.
I would just, I wasn't here for the whole thing, but I have read the document, and we have a very similar circumstance on a cul-de-sac. Actually, it's just above the few houses up from where Scoutmaster Howard's parents live, where we've got a revolving door of renters. They've taken this home, they've literally subdivided the home, and we have neighbors watching all the time the drug trafficking going in and out of that home all night long. But they've subdivided it. There's renters in the basement, there's renters upstairs. You can see even when you look at their front window, which is a big living room window, there's a wall that they've built that divides the house right in the middle of this living room window. So they've created 2 rooms in their living room for living space. So it is an issue, it is a problem, and I'm not sure how we tackle it, but we do have an issue with it in all of our neighborhoods.
Yeah, it's widespread. It's widespread. Thank you, Councilman Vincent. Any others? Okay, then we'll move on to our consent agenda. Let's see. We've got a delay agreement, and this is Resolution 16-165 between the city and Jared Collins and Philip Harvey. This is property at 2991 West, 3835 South. And there are improvements that normally are required, and in this case there is a request to delay those for a period of time just because of the situation there and the neighborhood. There are appropriate things to do and not do in these areas. It seems appropriate to delay this, but in order to allow them not to put those in, we have to have a formal agreement in place. With that then, I think that covers it, so to the council.
Mayor, I move for approval of both items of our consent agenda.
Oh, excuse me, that's right, there was another one, wasn't there?
Second.
And we have a second. I should just mention the other one. That's Resolution 16-166. It's a storm drain easement. Routine thing, we've done a lot of these. Sorry, thank you. Glad you mentioned that, so I at least mentioned the other one, so it's on the record. Any further discussion to those two items? Seeing none, we'll turn to our city recorder for the roll call vote.
Councilman Vincent,
Yes.
Councilwoman Lang,
Yes.
Councilman Hune,
Aye.
Councilman Christensen,
Yes.
Councilman Nordfelt,
Yes.
and Mayor Bigelow.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. That concludes our business for tonight. Any final comments from the council? Seeing none, one last motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Passes unanimously. We are adjourned. Thank you very much for visiting tonight.